A very warm evening for one and all present here. Thank you so much for joining this show, Aura the Inspiration. From the deepest pages of history till the infinite years ahead, a woman is looked up as an embodiment of power. The power to create, the power to inculcate, the power to withstand, and the power to proceed. A woman standing indispensable as a mother, daughter, wife, sibling, and friend has also proven her vigor to perceive, compete, and succeed. To stand for herself, to commit herself, and to fight for her dreams is not an easy everyday privilege and does not come too easy her way. She needs to put in her extra zeal and push to ensure she's not stopped by any implicit pullback strings, be it societal, emotional, or customary. With no compromise to her family commitment and duties, and to succeed in her professional endeavor is a craving every young woman strives for. Here at Aura, the inspiration, we are attempting to get the successful women, both professionally and personally, talk on their journey. With heaps of excitement, let's begin. May I request Mrs. Susan Koshi, Editor in Chief, Presents, to deliver the welcome address.
Priya. Aura the Inspiration is organized by Prime Point Foundation, along with its two initiatives, Next Gen Political Leaders and e-magazine Presents. Prime Point Foundation is a Chennai-based NGO founded in the year 2000 by ex-banker and communication strategist Mr. K. Srinivasan. Prime Point Foundation has 6 initiatives, namely e-magazine Presents, launched in March 2006 on the suggestion of former President of India, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, to promote positive journalism. Education Loan Task Force started in 2010 to promote awareness about education loan, especially among students. Sansad Ratna Awards started in 2010 jointly with IIT Madras to honor top performing parliamentarians based on prescribed performance parameters. Digital Journalists Association of India started in 2015 to facilitate development of digital journalism skills among students and professionals. Digital Security Association of India started in 2017 to create awareness about digital security and cyber law among stakeholders. The most recent, Next Gen Political Leaders, started in October 2018 to develop knowledge and leadership skills among young political leaders from all political parties. Prime Point Foundation has been organizing series of talks and discussions, namely Sangamam, which is a fusion of great minds, Amuda Surabhi, an appreciation of Indian heritage, and dialogue with experts. And now, we introduce Aura, the Inspiration, the latest in the series. We are proud to introduce our special guest for this first episode of Aura, Ms. Ameeta Mulla Wattal, a global educationist. Ms. Ameeta Mulla Wattal is principal of Springdale School, Pusa Road and Kirtinagar, New Delhi. And she is former chairperson of the National Progressive Schools Conference. She has worked in the sphere of education in a spectrum which includes creative arts, special needs education, communicative English, street theatre, women's education, peace studies, and curriculum development for over 4 decades. Ms. Ameeta Mulla Wattal is a recipient of the prestigious National Teachers Award, which she received from the President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. She also received the Endeavour Award from the Australian government for her work in the area of Asia literacy. She has been recognized at the national and international levels with innumerable other awards. It is an honor, madam, to have you as our first special guest on Aura. Priya?
Thank you so much, ma'am. And as Susan ma'am rightly said, I think we can surely not ask for a better start for the series Aura, which is going to be a very special to most of the working women who have high aspirations to do good in life, at the same time not to compromise on their personal front. So thank you so much, Ameeta ma'am, for being with us today. And it is a pleasure for us having you on board. And to quickly run you through what we'll be doing in this conversation, like we've got three sections in this. So section 1 for 10 minutes, section 2 for 10 minutes, and section 3 for 10 minutes. So first section is called One Step Closer, where we are going to know a little more closer about you, which is not available on the Wikipedia or on net. And the second segment will be Tides and Rides, where we are going to learn more about how you had crossed your challenging phases. And the third will be Impression Intense, where you will leave us with your magical words for us to take across. So are we good to start, ma'am?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Before you ask me anything, I just want to say that I'm truly humbled by Srinivasan ji for having invited me for this Point Foundation program called Aura, and the kind words of Susan in introducing me, and of course Gopal Srinivas for being an integral part of this. And Priya, how can I ever say no to you? The way that you are as a human being, so positive, so energized. It's truly so, as I again want to repeat, humbling to be an integral part of this program. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ma'am, if you could just share a little more about your family. We know that you're from, army and a naval background, like your father in the Navy and your husband in the army. So could you just give us a little more about your family and how have you been raised?
Well, actually, Priya, I was a child of war, really, because the family, so to speak, we're from Kashmir, Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir. And in many ways, we are supposedly a minority in our own state. But having said that, I would say that we are essentially Indians at heart. And that's what we are, because I have lived all over India and across the world, and that is something that my father has ensured, that you're an Indian first and you belong to a state later. And so that has been a very integral part of who I am and in my growing up. And we came from a background of people who were essentially judges and who were poets, extremely well-known poets, and people from the judicial system. We were freedom fighters. In fact, my great-grandfather was part of the Hunter Committee, which got rid of General Dyer. So essentially, the Mulla family has been integral to a lot of government policies, to changes that have taken place in our country. Along with that, my mother is from the Haksar family. And the Haksars, essentially P.N. Haksar, who was an integral part of the Indian Administrative Service and then part of the ruling party at the time, the Congress Party. So we have all been integral to a lot of concepts of development of families and governments within this country for many, many generations. So my mother's family is from Kashmir. My father's family is also from Kashmir, but we have never lived there. My mother's family lived there. And having said that, I think what is most important is that in 1971, when there was this war between Pakistan and India, and in the creation of Bangladesh, that's when our first casualty that took place in the Navy, perhaps the only one, unfortunately, was when my father's ship, INS Kukri, was torpedoed on the night of December 9th, and it went down with its sailors and officers. And that's when my father got the Mahavir Chakra, because he saved the lives of innumerable sailors and innumerable officers. And he gave his life jacket to his second in command. And he said he would not leave the ship because he had young boys there, straight from the NDA, who said, "Father, don't leave us," because they were so alone and they were so scared, because all around them, the sea had caught fire. There were sharks, it was the dark night, and there was an unknown. And my father refused to leave them. And he sat down on his chair and he went down with the ship. And that was the last sight that anybody had of my father. And then after that, of course, he never came home. And he lies there in the arms of the sea, along with all his brother officers. So I suppose that was a very traumatic time for us, because every human being needs to have a closure of people who are close to them. And when a death happens, there's always a closure because there are the rights and there are all the different rites that take place, which helps us to grieve. It was till today, we keep thinking, will he ever come back? And it's been 50 years now. It'll be 50 years in 2021, now at the end of this. So that's the way it happened. And that affected my life in a very, very big way. Is there something else you want to ask after this?
Yeah, in fact, I can just feel the essence of your feeling, ma'am. You could just actually put it in the right exact way, which could be understood and which could be felt. And at that age of yours, I'm sure you would be in your early 20s, if I was not wrong. So taking such a news of an unexpected incident would have made you strong, would have I'm sure would have made you a better person for sure. So where did you do your schooling, ma'am? Like your schooling, your higher education?
Priya, I know I look old, but I'm not that old. I was 14 years old when my father passed. Right?
Okay.
So you can imagine the trauma. My
Mm-hmm.
mother was only 32 years old,
Oh.
34 years old. I was 14, just turned 14, and my sister was 11 years old. So we were a family of women, right? And in those days, there weren't all these things that I think, which is so important that the government has given to its to the people who've passed in the war, where they've been. And I think you can't compensate in any way for a life, but yet the government has been kind enough across the years, various governments, and have given these lands or other things. But in those days, there was nothing like that. It was so tragic that the Mahavir Chakra was 10,000 rupees, but it was not the money. It was the fact that you gave your life for your nation. So it was a very tough time at that time. And suddenly from being something where you had everything, because we'd just come back from England. My father was the deputy naval advisor in London, and we had been there for 4 years. And we got back and we had anything and everything, and we had a wonderful life. And suddenly from everything and anything, we had nothing. Because in those days, there was no insurance. My father wasn't even insured. And it took nearly a year for his pension to start coming. So suddenly we had nothing. And we were in a boarding school. I was in a boarding school in Simla. And we didn't have money to pay for that. And so I was on a scholarship. And then my mother spoke to the nuns, and they were kind enough to say that if Ameeta gets a certain amount of marks, and she can carry on. And so I was consistently trying to do that. I used to give, so I wanted to retain that education because I felt that it was good for me, and it was an expensive boarding school. And so I got onto a scholarship, and I was consistently trying to just beat that number, which was a tough thing, and side by side, sort of making my own pocket money by giving radio programs at that age in Akashvani, Simla. And I was also a national table tennis player from my state. I didn't do too well at the national level, but at the state level, I was number one, and I was sent to the nationals. So we used to get things like eggs and shampoos and other things to sort of carry on. And my mother was a remarkable woman. She looked after all the cookery widows who the cookery had gone down. The Navy came up in a big way and supported the cookery widows in Mumbai. My mother supported them in different ways. And then finally she came and settled with us in Simla, where I was. And we were in a very small one-room sort of rented place. And the rent, I think, was 100 rupees. And it was very cold, and the pipes would burst in the winter. And we had to, get the bukharis going with the coal. And my mom did all the domestic work herself, because anybody who helped you would leave and go away because of the snow. Those are very tough times. And we used to walk on the Forest Hill Road to reach the schools and to reach the college where my mother was studying and doing her TTC. Because before that, she was a journalist and she had her own magazine. She had a magazine which was one of the first in the Indian English magazines for women called Beads and Bangles. This was between the Femina and the Eves. So this magazine was also used for in-flight magazine for various aircraft, especially in those days, it was only the Indian Airlines and such. And suddenly her whole world also collapsed and she came back and she was with us in Simla and we led a very tough life. But we had each other. It was a household of women, you know, and we thought that we must carry on. And yeah, so it was not easy. And so we were in that.
Yeah, so I didn't have an idea of all this, ma'am, but how beautiful is it to have you on the first episode of Aura, where you have actually been raised by, you know, a mother, like, and then you had all that women power around you, and the respect for where you stand today from where you have started, ma'am. Like, high respect for that, and I'm sure we're going to learn more from your experiences. And how did you choose to be a teacher, ma'am? And were you a teacher, or were you in the administrative part of it? Like, you had because you're the principal right now, so.
So I must tell you this, that you see, when the war happened and Papa's ship sank, at that time I was deeply influenced by that action, by him and by the entire action, because my father was not a penny in the slot hero. He was a man who his whole life was an extremely talented and extremely strong personality. And I realized that if wars are made in the minds of men, then it's in the minds of men that we have to find peace. And at that age, I realized the only place which really affected people was in school. And you won't believe it, Priya, but it was at the age of 14, I thought I'd become a teacher because I thought I would influence people a great deal. Because I felt, uh, I mean, as I started growing, I realized that basically learning happens between 4 and 14 or 6 and 16. The rest of it is merely experience. And in my own life, I saw that. All my learning was as a result of my father's teaching and what I picked up in school. The rest of it actually didn't happen because I did an earn and learn program. I never did formally attended colleges. I did everything through correspondences and uh, courses. My entire education, perhaps the only thing I did formally was my doctorate, which is, you know, so I do believe that I'm a perfectly self-created, self-evolved human being. Though I went through all the motions of the BA and the BEd and the MA and the MPhil, but I constantly earned and learned. So I was always working. I never stopped working because I was obsessed about being economically independent because we had seen difficulties in spite of things in my growing up years, though my mother did her best to ensure that we didn't see it. But yet I could realize the kind of stress levels that she was facing in trying to bring up two girls and so on. So my first job was at the age of 16, when I was 16 years old. As I said to you, I started off my first job as a helper teacher, you know. My first salary was 75 rupees. And I bought a sari for my mother for 25 rupees. and for my grandmother for 15 rupees. So I still remember that. And yeah, and that's the time when I realized I have to be a teacher. And it was very, very important to me.
You have undoubtedly influenced at least loads of students around you, ma'am, because when I get to read about you on the social media, when I get to see few of your school alumni, they really have very high respect for you. They actually stand today with a pride head on their shoulders saying that they are your product. So I would just want to convey this on on record. So which would you consider as your youngest achievement, ma'am? Which is that one thing you think that was your youngest achievement?
My first salary, I would say, as a teacher. I mean, how many people teach at the age of 16, you tell? You know, and it's interesting that the school at which I was studying, they took me back because it was that gap of 6 months between you wanting to do school and getting into college, because I was a product of the senior Cambridge, you know. And so there was this 6 months gap. And when I went to them, and let me tell, the nuns of Convent of Jesus and Mary were brilliant. I loved them. And they said to me, and that's why I don't believe in all this stuff that does the rounds about conversions and all of these things, because I believe very deeply in sort of interreligious involvement in interreligious development of human beings, because ultimately it's all Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We are a family. Rest of it is incidental, is the way my father taught me. And so they offered me a job to teach class 11. In those days, class 11 used to be the highest class, in our time. And class 11, and I was teaching Macbeth, Shakespeare, because I loved theater and I was very good with the language. And so that was my first job. And I was made the class teacher of class 2 and the English teacher of class 11. So I was very proud of myself because I was 16 years old and I felt very posh because I was with the other teachers who had taught me. So that was a huge experience, because at that age, what else is in the mind of a child? The teacher. And suddenly you are sitting in the staff room with your teacher on sort of equal terms. Though I never felt that way. I always felt that they were wonderful. And I was always a bit intimidated. But yeah, that was my finest moment, I would say.
Absolutely. I can understand it thoroughly. And ma'am, how did you manage your maternity break? So this is one question which comes, or which every woman who is very aspirational, who wants to keep up the family way as well as keep their profession going good. And this maternity break ends to be unfortunately a trauma to many. So how did you manage that, ma'am?
You see, in those days, there never was anything as a maternity leave or anything like that. And you had asked me a question earlier. Yes, I was never in an administrative post. I was always a practitioner. I always taught. I was a teacher. And I must have taught in at least 20 institutions across the country and the world, because I also taught in different parts of the world. So, so at that time, there was nothing like that. And so, you had to sort of cope. And so I remember so clearly that um, I felt that I must carry on with my salary. And people used to immediately cut your salary if you were not around. And so I thought we just took, I suppose, we took child bearing or child rearing as just another integral part of our lives and didn't make a big deal of it, so to speak. Also, I would say that in those days, it was a little more easier than it is now for young women, because you don't have help now and you live in nuclear families. So it becomes very difficult. Whereas in the olden days, we tended to have a lot more domestic help. We had people who would be with you, and that helped a lot. My mother-in-law was a most amazing human being. I have tremendous love for her because my mom was busy working. She needed to work. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law was an IAS officer of the UP cadre, and she herself was a professor in Isabella Thoburn College in Lucknow. That's before she married, and then she would come over and sort of help me in every way. An amazing woman. And she would just say, you just do what makes you happy. You just carry on. And in fact, I was very bad in Hindi because we were, I didn't, so she used to teach me Hindi, and she got me through my BA. She taught me Hindi because that was a supplementary I had to do for the graduation, for the honors course. And she got me through that. So I had a lot of support from I always feel that Papa passed and one door closed. The other door opened because I married also very early. I married at the age of 18.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she was there. She was my surrogate mother, I would say. And so she helped me. And so throughout, I got a lot of sustenance from her. Whenever I needed any help, I would just give her a call and say, Mom, I'm having a difficult time. Would you please help out? And there she was. So I think it's very important to keep relationships going with the older generation in the family. And today, because of nuclear families, we've sort of cut away, and we have distanced ourselves from a lot of goodness that can come from relationships.
Absolutely. So that was fortunately at those age, ma'am, when you had your surrogate mother, as you rightly said, who could actually help you realize your dreams and give you the strength to run. How about the women who are aspiring today, given the situation of a nuclear family? And that gets them into a depression, because yes, most of them are educated, most of them, when they study, they are ambitious, they want to do something in life. And how do they manage this space?
I always tell young mothers, because I'm always dealing with them in the capacity of a principal that I've been for nearly 25 years now. And I always tell them this, that, you must work. You must never give up your job. And I think that's very important, because I think that child rearing is something which is a choice that both the couples must make. It's not just the mother. I mean, she is the one who bears the entire the process of the child, but it's a joint choice. Now, if it's a joint choice, it's very important that the man must come into that space, and he must be ready to take on certain pressures and certain challenges that may come along with this space. And I think that's where understanding in the marriage is very important, because when you're bringing in a third member into your family, it's very important that the two of you should be on the same page. Because I've often felt that, children are born as a necessity sometimes for whatever reasons, because everybody feels, you're married, you must have a child. But then if you must have a child, then you have to be accountable for that child. And only one parent cannot be accountable for that child. And so I submit and I make this humble submission to all young couples out there. If you want to bring a child to this world, please do it as a joint venture. Yeah? I hate to use this word venture, but that's how people talk these days. Do not let it be just your wife who takes leave because the child is sick, who takes leave because she has to take him to the dentist, who takes leave because she has to take him to coaching, who takes leave because he has colic pains. Why? You have leave too. So it's very important. And I feel that perhaps the paternity leave of the man should also be extended a bit, and not just 15 days. And I think people should give some paternity leave to the male also. So a woman and a man today are a team, and they have to work together as a team. Otherwise, it's a very lonely and difficult place out there to be. You may as well be a single mother. It's not fair on you. It's not fair on the mom. That's what I.
Perfectly put, ma'am. I completely agree to it. Thank
One
you
more
so
thing, Priya. I think every organization must have a creche. Even in my school, I've created a creche. So to the point that if I had teachers who were having difficulties because they had no one to help them, because they had moved out from where their in-laws were, they were nuclear families, I would say the moment your maternity leave finishes, you bring the baby with you. Bring the baby to school. I had another place kept over there so that the baby could be there. So we could have some help who would help out while the mother was, teaching, and then she would go back and maybe, look at the child during periods, free periods. I think every organization that hires women must have a creche. That must be, and that should be a government rule.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's perfect to hear from the leadership, because it is essential for the leader, which I may say as a principal of an organization institution. It is you who have to take a stand that you just cannot let go a woman of her profession just because she chose to have a child, which is unfortunately happening in few organizations. They are very skeptical in taking women on board for the only reason that she may not be able to extend her long hours, post she decides to have her, extend her family. In fact, unfortunately, there are few organizations which ask a question: are you planning to have a child? When soon are you going to have a child? So I feel this is very intuitive. Like, you just cannot get into their personal space of asking even if they want to have a child. So you very rightly put, probably having a creche in your work area will make things easier for women to work henceforth. So we've got one last question in this segment, ma'am. So there are times which I myself faced, so I should accept it with grace, that you get into that emotional crucifixion mode, that even if your child is ready to take that space from you, sometimes you feel that you're not doing justice to your child being a little far. I chose to take a complete break of 2 years for my son, which I'm not doing it for my daughter. I'm being stronger now, but still, that emotional crucifixion, self crucifixion sometimes, and societal also. Like, your family looks up to you, like, okay, the child is only 8 months, like, she's going to work. So at this point in time, how important is the strength of the woman there, ma'am? Like, how do you take a call there?
No, I think that's a very good question you put, Priya, because this is something that I have my entire life. I've said that ultimately, um, I'm not going to put that guilt on myself. Why should I? Because I have worked my entire life without a stop, without a stop. And I have my son. He's grown. He's now 42 years old. He's out there. I don't, if you would call him up, he wouldn't say that his mother neglected him. But he, in fact, has grown up into someone who supports women because he's realized. Because I think this whole guilt trip that we have as women, I don't know why we do it to ourselves. And I think we have to get out of this because the 21st century is talking about the fact that your soft skills are your hard skills. You know, so you have to understand that collaboration, cooperation, communication, dialogue, these are very important aspects of who you are, and this is what you have to do with your spouse. And so if why should you be, in fact, he should be on a guilt trip, or your family should be on a guilt trip for putting this onto your plate, that your child is crying, why are you not here, what's going on, why, what is there? So I mean, children will grow, and I think one has to realize that you are not the only person responsible for that child. The child is the responsibility at different levels. So I think it's very important that women have to believe that the things that come their way, they need not accept it. They have to practice a sort of detached attachment. It's very important. And perhaps it helps me because I believe in the duality, the Advaita Vedantas, where you talk about the effect and the cause, and the duality of the effect and the cause. And I think it's very important that we are all in this huge cosmic soup together. Why should you think that you're the one who has to be the mover and shaker of everything? Why give yourself so much of importance? Don't be on a guilt trip, please. Let others be on a guilt trip, not the woman. She's doing too much in any case.
Oh, great. I wish I heard this a couple of years before, but thank you so much. I'm sure it's going to be helping a lot of women who are going to hear it through. So with this, ma'am, we finish our first segment. So now we're going to the second segment, which is going to be tides and rights. And I'm sure we're going to have loads to hear because I'm talking to somebody who has started her, if I may say, the struggle to prove herself right from the age of 16. And she's, God bless, continuously proving herself with the highest mettle possible. So tides and rights here, we're going to ask about your challenges, the way you had tackled it, and much more. So the first question, the biggest challenge as a working woman you faced?
My biggest challenge was that I was married to an army officer, a paratrooper, fantastic guy, great support. Again, a great support. I've been married, touchwood, 45 years now. That's a long time, 46 years. And the biggest challenge I faced was that everywhere I went, I worked. But I made up my mind that I'm going to be with my husband. Otherwise, why would I marry? I somehow believe that you must be with, if you're married, then be together. Today, it's a difficult situation. There are people who have, one is in another city, another is in another city. But perhaps I was a bit of a dinosaur. I'm from the old school. And I thought that relationships, for me, relationships have always been very important. And so I felt that if I must be with my husband, because I think he's the best friend you have. And it's a very competitive world. You need someone to, watch your back. And so what would happen is that every time he got posted somewhere, I would have to start from scratch. And here, I would reach a certain level of competence or of acceptance or of, well, I won't say notoriety, but a big celebrity in a particular place for whatever I did, because I worked very hard. And I was just about established. And then again, the posting happened. And again, I would come all the way down. I mean, I just went crazy trying to prove myself in every single organization I went to. And I had to deal with so much of mediocrity. I'm sorry, this sounds, I'm saying it with all humility, please. Do not misunderstand. I had to face mediocrity because since I was a new person in a new organization, I had to go all the way back again. And again, prove myself amongst people many times who are mediocre. But I had to constantly walk that tightrope because I couldn't upset people. See, If you want to be a team leader, or you want to upset people, you can't walk over people who've been around for 30 years, 40 years in organization and say, well, here I am, I'm going to be introducing myself, put me right on top. But that taught me a great deal. It was my biggest challenge, but it was my biggest teacher. Because through those years, I made some fantastic relationships with people. Because as I evolved as a person, they realized my worth. And they realized that I never made them look small, or they realized that I never tried to make myself look bigger. And that helped a lot in my evolution and learning from other people, watching them and learning them. So, yeah, that was my biggest challenge.
So every single place you had to start from the beginning and climb the ladder. And will that not create frustration, ma'am? Like, will that not?
Well, strangely, I was not frustrated. Uh, I was constantly changing track. Like if in a particular organization I did something, in another one I would take another. Basically, it was all education. I was working in education. I was working at college. In the college, I worked in Hyderabad. I was working with the St. Francis Degree College, which is part of the Osmani University, if you know Hyderabad. Wonderful girls' college, what else, LSR and uh, Miranda House are to Delhi, Degree College, Begumpet is to Hyderabad. So at every point, I thought, what did I do in my last job? Let me not do that. Let me do something different. So there were so many different openings, so many different learnings I got. I never followed the same path. And I kept thinking, let me follow a path less traveled in every organization that joined. So, I mean, I'm amazed at the amount I learned from that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for answering that so vividly. And as a leader, when you are in the position of a command, so does it really matter? Like gender, does it matter? Like people taking up your commands and probably a male counterpart who could have been in your position. How does it work, ma'am? How is it as a leader being a woman?
You see, well, I don't know whether you call it fortunate or unfortunate. I have always been a profession which has been sort of female heavy, if you know what I mean. Because if you're working in educational institutions and schools and such, especially in urban India, it's mostly women centric. So, but I don't think it's only about the male. Women can also be as tedious and as difficult as men can be. Women can also be highly insecure of your development. Women can also pull you down, you know. So there are two different kind of violences that take place amongst men and women. So yes, probably if you're in a corporate, you're in a field of journalism, you're in fields which is more men centric, and you are not there. There are fewer women. There are different kinds of challenges and obstacles and the glass ceilings that come into being. But even working in organizations that are women oriented, there's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of envy, there's a lot of backbiting. So these things do happen. So you have to take it. I mean, I believe that if you're out there and you're ready to face the world, what is all this? I think we have to overcome it. And that is why I think, we have to forget about half causes, half truths, half ideals, and embrace the whole. And the moment you embrace the whole, you realize that it is part of wholeness that will make you a strong adult. It's a tough call, but you can't back up. People give up very easily, they give up very easily. Women give up, men give up. I don't think we should give up. And I think somewhere, if we don't give up, we're able to, overcome that obstacle and get onto that space that you want to be. I mean, I faced innumerable times, but I just don't give up, just don't give up.
We can just see that. I'm like, you could just very clearly make us understand it is just that optimism which has kept you going, and you have always been a fighter, and you continue being it, and we really love the way you are for that. And ma'am, how do few women who don't have a family support Like, if at all they have to stand by all themselves, but still they want to kind of, be successful in their profession. So there are a few women who don't really get support from the family. So how do they tackle the situation of managing their profession?
As I said, yes, I mean, there have been many occasions when, in fact, I think that a lot of women uh, around the world, it's not only about India, around the world, who sometimes are not supported. You know, they're not supported by their spouse, they're not supported by their parents. I can see that happening, and I think that's where we have to sort of, really say, what is it that I want? You know, am I going to? Uh, I think if you have to keep that passion going, you know, and you have to say, do I really want it bad enough? Do I really want it bad? And I think if you want something bad enough, nothing can stop you. Nothing. But that is a choice that you have to make. Do you want that thing bad enough? I know personally that, when I talk about a support, I say, yes, I have a very supportive spouse, but at the end of the day, he's not going to do my work. He's not going to find me my job. You know, I may have a mother-in-law, she's long gone, she's passed many, many years. So I have gone forward saying, do I want this? If I want this, then I'm not going to compromise. If I'm not going to compromise, then I'm not going to be sitting there and saying, oh, I didn't get this, I don't get that. I didn't get it because I didn't work for it enough. I didn't push it enough, whatever reasons. I think these are choices that women have to make. And this actually comes by self-motivation. Nobody can motivate. It comes by a certain um, belief in yourself, you know. And I've seen women from very abused backgrounds, because I was working in Telangana, at that time, Andhra Pradesh, in the early 90s. I was involved with Rosamma for the Iraq movement. I worked against the anti-Iraq movement. We used to go around breaking all these Iraq bhattis, you know. And I remember so many women who were involved in it, and they really changed the face of so many things in that state. And it was a huge movement at that point of time. And I remember a lot of them sort of being really, sort of rejected by their in-laws and coming on this. These were all rural women, but they were tough, you know. They said, doesn't matter. We believe in this and we will go forward. Who was there to help them? They had no money. The men were beating them up. They were facing domestic violence, but they refused to give up. There were others who said, well, I can't go further. Well, fine. So the thing is, if you really want it, you have to work for it. And people who've got there, women who've got there, have really worked for it.
Absolutely. So technically, it's like just having an aspiration doesn't really help. You have to be, self-built. You have to help yourself. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And last question in this segment is, in the leadership role, tell me one critical experience of yours which you feel really proud of handling it, and you have really handled it very effectively.
You know, I have done a lot of different jobs in my life. I was obsessed about being an editor of a magazine. And so I became. I won't mention the magazine here because it's a very well-known magazine. And I became an associate editor. It was connected with women and children, that magazine. And I was very obsessive about the fact that I wanted to do an entire segment in that magazine on special needs. And in those days, no one was really even bothered about it. I'm talking about the early 90s, late 80s. And so I gave up school teaching. I joined the magazine, and I was very happy with a little desk and doing my stuff. And I went to the owner and I said, "This is it, publisher, whatever you call them." And he's also a very well-known person. And I said, "I want to do this." He said, "Okay, I'm not very happy with it." I said, "No, you are dealing with children's issues. You're dealing with issues of young people and parents and so on. We must do it." And he kept, hedging and hawing. But I went ahead because I thought that I had that freedom as an associate editor. And I did. I was very pleased. I did this huge section. I went ahead with it, and so on and so forth. And then I went off to. I put the magazine into print. It came into print, and I went off somewhere, I don't know, for a pilgrimage, I think, because I was so pleased with myself. And when I came back, there was no desk and there was no chair. I'd lost the job. I got so hopping mad that I don't know whether I should say this, but I was very proud of myself because I got so hopping mad. I went there and I removed everything from the computers. And the next periodical, the next month, did not come out. And I rang them up and I said, I will not allow this magazine to come out. Now, that was a huge call because I was much younger, very much younger. And I could have been, FIR could have been lodged against me, something could have happened. But for whatever it happened, it never happened. But I ensured that the next month, that magazine did not get printed because I did not allow that material to be there. So after this whole magazine went out with you may call it a leadership, but for me, that was leadership for children with disabilities. For me, that was a point I was making. There have been innumerable examples of leadership I may have had as heading an institution or even as a teacher or in whatever capacity I did. But for me, this was about children who are marginalized, about children, who must be there and people must know about them, that they were autistics or whatever they were. They should be heard about. Their voices should be heard. People should know about them, and people didn't know about them at the time. And so I took this action. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. That was like that you showed us a movie picture in front of us.
People are scared of me,
Thanks. In fact, I'm sure you wouldn't have shared this before in a public forum. So we are privileged to have this closer side of yours. So with this, we come to the last segment, which is the impression and intents. So technically, the entire other two segments have also been much of impression and intense take backs. But first thing which we would want to know in this is how to maintain and keep up the spirit and strength.
I think it's very, very important to believe in yourself. Because you see, nobody else can believe in you. Some way or the other, people will lose faith in you. Some people may just reject you. Some people may be insecure about you. I think you have to believe that you, like everybody has a special place, you have been placed there for a purpose. There is a purpose to your life, pleasure and happiness, they're incidental. So, pleasure is very transitory. Happiness, maybe it gives you a certain meaning. But the greatest thing that you require is the purpose in your life. What is the purpose of your life? I mean, it's like, who will cry when you die? Sort of, So have you done something for the other? What is the other in your life? It's so easy to do things for your family, for your mother, for your father, because they're an extension of you. Have you done anything for the other without expecting any returns? And I think sometimes you may have to even leave a person that you love because it may be toxic. So for the purpose, you should do everything. And if you have a purpose in your life which is beyond your immediate self, beyond your immediate level of comfort, beyond your immediate family or your friends or your extended family, I think that is what should make you a very different person. Keep you going.
So one more thing, ma'am. Now, is the society prepared? Because you have an extensive exposure, about 45 years, in the industry. Are we prepared for women getting, working women in the society? Are we acceptable to working women in the society? And are we neutral? Are we looking at it in a neutral factor when it comes to the counterparts?
Why are we bothering about whether we are accepted or not accepted? Who cares? You should be acceptable to yourself, and you should make your own path. I can see that it's happened. I mean, you have to go forward. Why are we waiting for someone else to open our door? Why are we waiting for somebody else to accept or reject us? Who is society? Who is this great Samaj? वो खड़ा है समाज अंधा बेनाम बेरहम जो कभी हमें समझ नहीं पाया. What rubbish? Who is this Samaj? Women have got over so much. They are most amazing. They have got over from Sati till today. What have they not borne? But they're there. They're great examples of women who stood up, you know. And so I refuse to accept what society wants from women. And women should refuse to accept. They should say, do I have a purpose? Do I have potential? If I have potential, if you don't have it, then create it. You have it, then you have passion. You live out that passion, and that passion should be for a purpose. And I think the world is an oyster of a woman. She's far more communicative. She's in many ways, she has tremendous emotional and physical strengths. In many ways, she outlives people because of the kind of strengths that she has, you know. And there is a lot of comfort that women give to people in different ways. And I'm not stereotyping women, because they also give strength and they also give comfort. So it's at two levels. So I don't think we should ask ourselves this question at all, that am I going to be accepted? Does society accept me? Forget about it.
You just answered my next question, where I was about to raise, because we say women is a power. On the other hand, we say women is, symbolic to a flower. So I'm like, how come power and a flower? So I'm like, you just got it right, because we comfort at the same time we have the power to run. Ma'am, quickly, I'm going to ask you a few questions, which I know I can't test you though, but given this opportunity, I don't want to let it go either. So I'm just giving you a topic in which you could just give me one word for each of it, ma'am. So it's probably like a rapid fire. So can we start? Yeah.
Sure.
Your role model.
My father.
Your strength.
Compassion. My compassion.
Your hobby.
Reading.
3 essentials for you every day.
3 essentials for me every day. 3 essentials for me every day is breathing through meditation. It's the nearest thing to prayer. Breathing, meditative breathing, music, and conversation.
How to keep up optimism?
Just the life is fabulous. It's fantastic. That's it.
Your vision?
Understanding, acceptance of the other.
When do you get satisfied?
I never do.
Who is Ameeta Mulla Wattal?
The daughter of Captain Mahendranath Mulla.
And
a
your
man.
Yes,
Pardon?
Sorry, please continue.
I mean, a man who, till today, I have, I've always believed that the way that he lived and died was so phenomenal that anything I do, I'll never be good enough, because I'm not dead yet. When I'm dead, it'll be too late in any case. So it's a consistent striving upwards for the kind of value systems that he instilled.
Your message?
My message. Again, I'd say what he told me when he gave me the first book called the Rubai, Umar Khayyam's Rubaiyat. At the age of 12, he gave it to me. And he said, I want it learnt by heart in 1 week's time. So I know the Rubai by heart. And on that, he simply wrote, to thine own self be true, as the night the day, and then thou canst be false to any man. These were not his words, but he wrote that. And so I said, just my message is, be true to yourself. That's all.
Wow, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's just been a pleasure. And from our side, we just wanted to give you a small surprise. So Srini, can we do the screen sharing?
Good to be on your show and under your aura. I told Priyadarshini that you can very well caption your show as Ameeta, because for me, Ameeta and aura are both synonyms to each other. How nice to be here. Ameeta, you may or you may not know that your positivity, your energy, your enthusiasm are simply infectious for the people around you. I'm lucky to have you as my friend for many, many years. I admire you for several things, but let me pick out the two. One, that the way you carry yourself, the way you enthuse people, motivate people. And the second is the great examples that you set for people around you. I mean, that is amazing. I can also tell you, Ameeta, that you carry a good head over your shoulders. And I know it for sure that you also carry a heart which is at least 10 times larger than the average size. How amazing. I thank you for being what you are. I thank you for embracing me in your circle. More energy, more years to you. You have to continue to inspire people around you and help them in the most generous way that you always
Thank
do.
you.
All the best,
Thank
Ameeta.
you so much. That was so lovely, so beautiful. Ashok is a dear friend.
What would you want to tell back?
To Ashok,
Yes.
there's so much I can say, and I hope he's listening to me.
Well, that's a recorded version.
No, Ashok Pandey is someone that from the time I met him, I felt a deep connection with him because he is straight, he's honest, he is articulate, he understands people, he again has a purpose in his life. He's passionate about the things that he believes in. He brings people together. He's a huge team player. And the nicest thing about Ashok is that I don't know of anyone who has anything that is not good to say about him, because he gives everybody a chance and he gives everybody benefit of doubt. He's an amazing human being, and more power to him wherever he is, because the world of education needs people like Ashok Pandey.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I'm sure he will be very happy to hear this message through Aura. And as a gesture of love, we've got handmade soaps and hair oil from self-help group women who have done it through their authentic herbs. So that hamper is just on your way. Srini, if you could just share that the screen so that the hamper will reach you in just sometime after.
Wow, super. This looks so cool, really.
Yes, so they are certified MSME workers, ladies who are doing this work. So we will very soon send you this gift hamper from their end, ma'am. And thank you so much for joining us in the show. And can I request Susan, ma'am, to come and share her ideas? Yes.
Well, thank you very much for this lovely evening and for that lovely session with you, ma'am. It has been so inspirational. You are a wonderful person, and I'm really, really zapped.
Susan, you're just being kind. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure you would have had a huge fan following, ma'am, and I'm sure now people will start loving you more, will start being more inspired. They will learn more from you. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and I would request Srinivasan sir, who is the founder chairman of Prime Point Foundation, who has actually given all women around him the strength to, run their passion, and that's Srinivasan sir. And then I also request Srinivas Gopal, who has been our technical support and who has been very cordial in ensuring that this entire set of things had happened. Thank you so much for your time, and lovely meeting you, Ameeta ma'am, and all wishes to you and prayers to you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much. And thank you all for such a wonderful opportunity. Keep the strength, keep going, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.